Ever since I was a kid, video games have meant everything to me. Ask me that at the time and I would have told you something different out of fear of judgment. You see, being someone who plays games nowadays is different than being someone who played them 10 years ago. But if you were to ask me that today, I would tell you that video games have helped me get over the most painful and darkest times of my life. Whether it's casually playing something to escape and have fun with friends, or immersing yourself into a story that teaches you more about life than anyone could in an entire lifetime. To get to the part how special this game is to me, and how it helped me, I first have to explain what led me to this game. You see, I have always been a fan of Dark Souls games. Those games deserve a video in and of themselves because of how powerful and meaningful those games are. But to keep it short for this part, Dark Souls has a unique way of gameplay and story that most games don't have. They are incredibly challenging, unforgiving, and leave you physically and mentally in the dark without a helping hand. These games are not for the faint of heart, and most would be turned off just for the first 10 minutes of playing them. But I couldn't really explain at first why I loved them so much. Despite how frustrated I would get mentally in the dark when playing them, you could say it's the level of reward you get from reaching certain bonfires or checkpoints, and that has a lot to do with it. But there's a deeper meaning behind those games, one that I realized eventually why I love them so much. For a while, I could not figure out how to process everything I had been through since I was a kid. One day after another, I just ignored my struggles, never mentioning them really in detail to another. Worsening as I got older, I grew up with immense self-doubt, self-hate, and eventually self-denial. It went so far as to eventually affect me in a way where I didn't even really know who I was anymore. Dark Souls is a game of everything relating to depression and the things I talked about, but in a physical world, and physical monsters and atmospheres that symbolize the struggle of mental health. After playing and falling in love with these games, I noticed a game with a similar playstyle and mechanics was coming about. That was Lies of P, a game where you supposedly play as Pinocchio hunting down corrupted puppets and monsters that threaten your friends and your creator, Geppetto. After being used to and favoring playing Souls-like games over most, Lies of P made me very excited to play. What I didn't expect about the game though was how powerful and emotional the story was. Upon starting the game, it doesn't really hold your hand or tell you exactly who you are and what is happening. You only assume that you are Pinocchio and in search for some friends who need your help. After a couple hours into the game, you realize that something has gone very wrong with the puppets in town. They're hostile and dangerous, not only to you it seems, but the people around the town. Eventually you come upon the game's main hub. Here you meet friendly puppets and humans who seem to be looking for answers and a way to stop this carnage that sweeps the streets of Krat. They tell you to look for Geppetto, your supposed maker, and upon finding Geppetto you are met with a friendly smile and kind words from your maker. Once you get the hang of the game and find other local survivors and puppets, the game starts to get complicated with its story. You see, up until this point, there hasn't been much reason as to why you are the way you are, and what you're doing and why you're doing it. You are simply just playing a really fun game and seemingly interesting story. This is when I started to connect emotionally to the game. Over time, you develop personal relationships with fellow human and puppet survivors within Hotel Krat. You begin to learn that puppets act similar to humans in a way that they show signs of emotions and a will, instead of just being programmed and controlled. You also learn that lying can be a useful tool for you in progressing throughout the game. In most cases, the option to lie or tell the truth is completely up to the player and not a programmed part of the game's story. Whatever decisions the player makes, they learn that each choice has consequences. In a general sense, it is morally wrong to lie, and in some belief, any type of lie is considered bad. But there comes a point in the game where it isn't black and white in the sense that lying equals bad and telling the truth equals good. There are scenarios later in the game, one where you are asked to tell the truth to a puppet if a human and puppet can ever fall in love. Now, the player is listed to either lie or tell the truth to this puppet. Telling the truth will of course mean the honesty of the player, but also comes a blunt return, sacrificing the emotional support the asker may need. There's a deeper meaning though when it comes to having the ability to lie. The idea of having a choice means the individual can have a will. Behind having a choice is where freedom lies. And if our character we play as has a will to make a choice, are they really a puppet? We can look deeper into this through Geppetto's relationship with the main character. Throughout the story, Geppetto, your maker, gives you the instruction to take care of the puppet frenzy, little questions asked. Upon your journey though, you find secrets about the puppet frenzy that you were never told. Many of the puppets you've been hunting down are no more than defenders, trying to warn the player of a bigger threat. These good puppets are being controlled by Romeo, Carlos' friend, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. Upon reaching the end of the game, you rescue your father/maker, Geppetto, from an evil force that surrounds the game and the frenzy up until now. After rescuing your father and hearing some suspicious talks about Geppetto's innocence, he tells you to do one last thing for him, and that is to give him your heart. When Geppetto says this to the player, he means both emotionally and physically, because this whole time he looked at you as his son. To him, it's someone who will do anything for him and his will and his only. That was Geppetto's mistake. That was where we saw our father's true intentions for us and who he believes his son is. Here the player is given another choice: hand over their heart or deny our father and face him. Now, what's interesting about this choice is that even after knowing the evil things Geppetto has done and bad intentions he has for us, if we deny him of our physical and emotional heart, we are actually doing the contrary. You see, what Geppetto thinks in his mind is that his son or creation is dishonoring him by refusing his order of how he wishes things to be. Yet, by our choice of denying him our physical heart, we are both honoring him and giving him our emotional one. Ever since the game starts, we are born anew in the world, new to emotions like love, anger, happiness, sadness, joy, and anxiety. It's throughout our journey that we feel these emotions firsthand and experience the world around us. It's through these experiences that we are shaped into the individual we become at the end of the game. We learn these emotions, process them, sometimes act on them, and share them with others. Everything we experience throughout the game leads us up until our last decision of submitting our free will and the ability to freely think, or deciding to give our heart for what's right. All of this can pull on any person's heartstrings and make them feel a certain way, but what really led to me starting to heal from my struggles was learning the difference between a puppet and a human. Throughout the game, your playable character becomes more and more human or puppet depending on the choices you make. Always telling the truth, especially without empathy and emotion, and racing through the journey with little time to engage with the world around you, and you become more and more like a puppet. Telling white lies followed along with empathy and compassion, engaging in the world around you, and making your presence known will make you more human. The more and more I played Lies of P, and the more I engaged with the world around me, I learned that the main thing that separates humans from puppets was the ability to feel. Every person or puppet you interact with in the game will almost always end up with you making a decision that involves some kind of emotion or will. Many times you will be happy or glad for your friends, and many times you will end up hurt. Choosing the human path will always lead to this, unfortunately, but that's what comes with feeling. That's what comes with being human. Sometimes it involves being there for a puppet who feels ashamed for developing feelings for a human. Sometimes it involves reminding a friend that she is beautiful, even if the world tells her she's not. And sometimes it involves being angry for someone else's sake, because even though it's not your fault, your best friend didn't deserve what the world took from him. We as humans are vulnerable, and there's nothing wrong with that. Lies of P teaches us this. As long as we are human, we will always go through days, whether it be with joy or tears. That's the burden of being human, but it's a beautiful one. The contrary to this feels no emotion, no feeling. True, they may never feel pain, sorrow, or hurt, but they also never feel joy, happiness, laughter, proud. After playing this game, I've learned that for a very long time I have been going through life living as a puppet, afraid to let myself feel as I'm feeling. I told myself that my emotions made me weak, served me no good, and eventually fully ignored how I was truly feeling. I ended up hating myself, and eventually forgot who I was. Lies of P helped bring me back, not only in what the game teaches, but how much heart can be found in this game. This game made it okay for me to truly feel again. It made me safe to feel vulnerable, and it made me proud to be human. From this day forth, I know I have a lot of battles to overcome, but for one thing I know for sure, is that I can feel okay to fight them. Lies of P taught me this. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider playing this game. Be mindful, and if it's not your type of game, that's okay. But hopefully you can get something out of this story that I shared, and I have a lot of other ones to tell. For now, Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all are having a good day, and let me know some experiences you guys have had in the comments with video games. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.